Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting us to share this information with you this evening. The good news is we're hoping that you folks are not impacted at all really by this fire. That is our objective, as Mike said, is to try to keep this fire tied into the wilderness and the West Fork as soon as we can and keep it away from all of the rest of the foothill communities to the east. I don't have to tell you guys what an absolute disaster that would be for us to get this fire down. Been there, done that with the Kerwin-Williams fire. How many of y'all remember that? 11 miles of fire line along the foothills. Not fun. We don't want to go there. So one thing I do want to let you folks know, because I know we're short on time and we want to get to questions, that's the big thing here, is we... Do you have that? Oops. Thanks. This may have already come out in the press, but after a forensic examination of the point of origin of the station fire, arson investigators from the U.S. Forest Service and the Los Angeles County Fire Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department have concluded that the station fire was the result of an act of arson. So with that said, folks, with the loss of the 2 firefighters from LA County, it is now a homicide investigation. Okay? So it is a joint investigation. This fire is all about, it started all about teamwork and it's going to end all about teamwork. It's a joint investigation between the U.S. Forest Service, Law Enforcement Investigations Unit, and the LA County Sheriff. So you know the drill. That's all the information we have. As soon as we get more information, we'll be sure and let you folks know, okay? And I believe there will probably be a press release coming out if it hasn't already, so you'll start to see that all over the news. Going on the point that, like I said, really hoping that you folks are not really impacted by this fire, I do think it's important that as citizens of the area that we understand what the impact of this fire is. Mike mentioned that this is the largest fire in the history of the Angeles National Forest. That would be going in recorded history since we've been counting fires. The Angeles was, or let's put it this way, the San Gabriel Mountains were actually set aside as a public land base in 1892 under the Timberland Reserve Act. So since 1892, this is the largest fire in recorded history within the San Gabriel Mountains. To give you a, in what, 145,000 acres? To give you a feel, before today, the biggest fire in San Gabriel Mountains was the Ravenna fire in, I think, 1919. Some of you may be historians, and if I get it wrong, correct me. And that was 75,000 acres. And Mike says it was up in the Soledad area, Soledad Canyon area, okay? And then I think it's way up there too, if it isn't the biggest in the history of Los Angeles County. I think we were looking at that today too, Los Angeles County in total. So pretty history in the making here. The other thing I want to point out to you is that this fire has impacted all 3 ranger districts on the Angeles National Forest. That means it has impacted all 3 watersheds, that significant watersheds that feed the LA Basin. As you all know, the San Gabriel Mountains is the headwaters for the San Gabriel River watershed, the Los Angeles River watershed, as well as the Santa Clara Mojave River watershed. And if you can look on the map and get a feel for where it is, it's a significant portion, especially if we push it into the wilderness, and the most eastern point of this fire ends up being San Gabriel Canyon, catching it up somewhere in the Sheep Mountain wilderness on that escarpment. It's a huge hunk of the whole southern part of the Angeles National Forest. Now, why is that significant? Well, we're going to order up, and I know some of you have been through this drill before, we have on order what's called a Burned Area Emergency Rehab Team. It's a federal team made up of a whole swath of about every ologist you can think of, soil scientists, geologists, biologists, archaeologists, all of them, engineers. And what they're going to do is it's going to be the biggest bear team I've ever worked with in my career. They're going to go out and they're going to assess every acre of this fire. And what they're going to do is they're going to tell us where did the fire actually burn, what's burned, how intensely did it burn, and what did it do to the vegetation in the soil. Did it completely nuke it and there's nothing left, not even a seed source? Did it create what's called a hydrophobic condition in the soils? What that means, hydrophobic, aversion to water. It's similar to, it means the fire burned so hot that it literally melted down the chemicals or the molecules in the soil and create a hard pan. It's kind of like when you wax your car and then you throw water on it, it beads up and just runs off. Hydrophobic soils, that's what happens. So when we do get the rains, it means that the water will not absorb into the soil and it's all going to run off really fast. Now, eventually that soil, something will break through those hydrophobic soils, and then what happens, the water gets under it and you get huge sheets of soil. Those are called debris flows and mud flows. So that's the thing that we need to look at with this burned area, is how intensely did it burn in these 3 significant watersheds that feed the LA Basin. The San Gabriel watershed, I think, is going to be the least impacted. The LA River watershed, it's the whole watershed on the National Forest land that's been impacted. And then a large chunk of the San Gabriel, or the Santa Clara Mojave River watershed as well. That means that we're concerned about the towns of Acton and everything else that's on that north side of the forest. So anyways, we're going to bring a team in here, and the key word in BEAR is emergency. That means fast. So as quickly as we can, we're going to assess what the damage is as a result of this fire. And then what they're going to do is give us recommendations, not only the Forest Service, but you can just imagine the number of entities and communities and all that wrap and almost clear around the forest like that, that we need to work with. This team will tell us and give us recommendations for what we need to do to try to secure the hillside to mitigate or minimize the impact to the downstream values. All right? What's the downstream values? Us and our stuff, all of our stuff. So once again, everything that's within that wildland-urban interface is going to be at risk. So when we get the recommendations from the BEAR team, we'll group up with everybody, figure out what we need to do, and once again, we'll have to have a really, really good communication plan if we end up having to do evacuations and go through that whole drill again. I have no idea what the weather predictions are going to be. Your all's guess is as good as mine. But the reason why I'm taking the time to tell you all this is because hopefully you all are going to be spared from having to really kind of worry about this in terms of impacting you and your stuff. But all of the communities to the west of you and all the way around, they're not going to have a fun winter. And I think that's something as a community that we need to think about. Those of you that were involved in the Kerwin-Williams fire in particular, you know how that went and you know what I'm talking about. You know, in addition to this fire, we did have the Morris fire as well. The Morris fire was in San Gabriel Canyon. San Gabriel Canyon sits above Azusa. So does the Wilderness, which is where we think we're going to try to catch this fire. So we are going to have another public meeting tomorrow night that will capture the cities over to the east because we know they're nervous as well. So we may have some issues that we need to deal with the city of Azusa because they're right in a direct line to that canyon. So again, same thing, get the BEAR team in there, figure out what we need to do. So I guess